What is up, Carnage family? Let me get this out of the way a little bit here. All right. So it's been a couple weeks, and we're going to talk about the CSL um, event and how I thought it went and how I thought it could improve and what I liked and what I didn't. I'm usually involved with the SXL format, which is Shotzone Indy's format for airsoft competition. And we had just done CSL. This was our first time. OTM took third, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm gonna start with the overall of the event. The overall of the event was amazing. Keegan, who owns CSL, does a really good job. A lot of the teams seemed very nice, at least at first. And we knew a few people going into this that we had been friends with and played with before. So that was really nice. We weren't coming into a brand new community completely blindsided. Even though we were coming into the format, we were also not blindsided by that, but we also had people that we knew, that it wasn't just us at an event, along with a bunch of people we didn't know, which was really cool. Good things. I like the way it plays. I like that it is a bit of an Unleash SpeedQB style format. And it's still got a flag. It's still based on 3 rounds. But it's real old school in the way that it works with feathering and allowing of blade triggers and as fast as the gun wants to go. One thing I didn't enjoy about that, just to throw a little jab there, it's not anything that is a insult. It's just something that I'm not used to, and I think is needed, but I think at the same time is kind of hard to regulate, which is the mag limit. I've never been a fan of mag limits. I think it's as much as the player wants to carry to make themselves bigger or smaller should be allowed. I actually really like, and this is something that a lot of people are going to fight me on, I really like that it was a gas mag only for Kappas, but you're not required to run a Kappa. I like that. If you want to run a Kappa and be small, you have to run gas mags, but you're no requirement. There is no gun requirement. I don't have to have an X amount of certain guns on the field, and I really, really like that. I like that across all formats that do not have like a limiting portion to them. I think is extremely good. I think you should be able to play if you have 5 Euros on one side, if you have 4 Kappas on one side. I think it's all fair of what you brought. I think that is, I shouldn't have a format policing that. Another good thing, I like that they had brought a photographer, and it seems that she travels with them. I would love to say majority of the time. I'm not, obviously this is our first event, but she seems to be more involved. And when talking to her for a little bit, she seems to have gone to quite a few events. One thing, I'm going to get into some of the things that bugged me, but I wouldn't call them dislikes. I'd just say things that from a different format's perspective, were not normal and I did not enjoy. I get not enjoy is also not the correct word, but, just abnormal, I guess. Starting off with player refs. I think player refs are a bad thing in any format because people can be salty about previous rounds, whether it's the beginning of the day or just happened 20 minutes ago. People can be salty about losing, and we'll take that out on the team that knocked them out. So I'm not saying that did happen, but I really don't like the idea that it's a possibility, that people can say that. I think that is why player refs are just bad across the board. I understand at this event that Keegan did not have a lot of staffing for it. Obviously, it's very far from their home, their original place that they run CSL. We were off the coast, so I get it. But at the same time, I feel like the event, you need to have your own staff for the event that are prepped the whole time, or you needed to use field staff, which were playing because they were told that Keegan had staff. At least that's what I was told. And I feel like maybe, and he did tell me, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, that people did drop out from his staff that he was going to have for that event. And it was a big hodgepodge of BS that led to that, which is perfectly okay. I get that things happen. That is, I mean, in terms of things I have wrong with tournament formats, it's very, very small on the list. I think it's just a bad look if something were to happen. Something I really didn't like, and I can say that I didn't like this, is that there is no footage review in CSL. To me, that's a big problem. I know a lot of formats don't do it, but after playing a format for so long that has footage review, I think it's super important because it keeps players in check. Because there's always a bad apple. In any format, in any sport, in anything, somebody is bad. Or a call wasn't made or something wasn't felt that would have maybe turned the whole ounce of the game towards a different way. And I feel like footage review lets you have your time to speak to the refs and the owner of the format or the place, and put your piece out there. If you have good footage, whether it be on a run camera or a GoPro, that is inevitable, it is undisputable footage. You watch it come off their mask. I feel like points should be reversed and teams should be held accountable. I think airsoft needs that comparatively to paintball, because paintball leaves a mark, even though there is smearing. Anybody that says people don't cheat in paintball has not played paintball, but it's a little bit harder to cheat in paintball. In airsoft, you can just be like, it didn't hit me, and if no one's looking at you, no one knows. And I think that's why footage review is a must in any tournament format. Anything that involves trophies, medals, money, or prizes should always have footage review, and should always be able to take wins away from teams if proven to be cheating after the event because of footage review. CSL does not have this, and again, I understand their reasoning. They think that it is that they don't have time for it, but it is super simple if they were to run the event a certain way, which I'm going to get into here in a minute. The event's timing is super weird, at least the one that we went to. We had like 2 1-hour breaks, which I think is very bad for everybody involved that's still in the tournament, because you're very cold after an hour. And teams don't perform as well. Your muscles are cold. I mean, it's just scientifical. I think instead of 2 1-hour breaks, we could have had 12 10-minute breaks. And everybody still would have got to breathe, would have been able to get some food in them, especially if you're not the first team up after the 10-minute break. But you wouldn't be cold, and I really didn't like that. I have no idea why, if that was a mistake, if that happened on purpose. I have no clue about that, but I really didn't like that. I think the pacing of CSL was very wrong. I think it should have been, the matches could have been more spread out to allow for, and talking about those 10-minute breaks, they could have been more spread out in between sets and allowed players to fix things, reload, have more time off the field, and his ref staff to have time off the field, and allow footage review while they're just sitting around, whether it's grabbing a drink or eating or whatever the refs were doing. They have enough time in 10 minutes to watch 3, 4, 5 teams' footage. And I genuinely believe that, because that's what SXL does and is on time every time. So I think from my experience with SXL, that CSL could benefit from some sort of pattern like that. One thing that I like about SXL and CSL is that it is your job to know when you are on deck, in the box, on the field, whatever you want to call it. It's your job to know that, and teams can get awarded points if you're not on time, if you're broken, if you're not out there. There's a lot of stuff that I really like about that. Teams need somebody to make sure that they're on the field when they have to be, and it's their fault because they are mostly adults. I say mostly because there are teams full of 15 and 16-year-olds, but for the most part, people traveling to these events are 16, 17 years old. And I think that you have 16, 17, 18, and older, I should clarify that, are old enough to understand that they have to be out there and they have to be watching the bracket and they have to know what game's going on and they can't just go fuck off outside. Okay. I think CSL could really benefit from time management during tournaments. And I don't think that that is something that they have addressed yet as a format. And I think if they were to do that as their next step, things would kind of fall into place for them in terms of that, because that would allow footage review and that would stop teams from cheating. And I'm not going to say that a bunch of cheaters were let through. I'm not going to say that nobody was cheating. But what I am going to say is that it gives teams time to talk in a mature way with refs as mediators, and lets teams that maybe caught something to progress further past teams that thought they were going to get away with it. And just the thought of footage review being a possibility scares a lot of people that cheat regularly. I know this firsthand. So I've dealt with teams that cheated every time we ever saw them, and then they got into an SXL format, found out that they can lose points, and then they play fair, and they don't do as well as they think they do, or if they have done in other formats. So I think it's beneficial, and I think it'll open eyes to certain things. Again, I have no clue. That was our first CSL event, but for people, I talked to a lot of people when I was at that event. Excuse me. And I think it could be eye-opening for either the event organizers or the people that think they're hitting people to hear a mediated response from both sides. I never like asking team captains, because what I was told is if I have clips of people cheating, to send them to the team captain of the cheater, which I think does nothing, because the team captain's going to defend their guys, as they should. But I think unless it's like I'm right up on them and it was a trade, they're never going to agree with me sending footage. So I think it needs to be something that the league does and operates. I think that's always got to be a thing. And it's got to be punished. I mean, Airsoft is a game of integrity. If we don't have our integrity, we have nothing. Sorry for that rant. Another thing that I really did like about CSL was that it's another format that has a community around it. SXL has a very good community around it. CSL seem to have one in their own little way, just like we do. And I can appreciate that, even if I'm not a huge part of that format and a huge part of that format's community. I can definitely respect that they have a community built, and it's a good one. It's tight. For the tournament we went to, Ace ended up coming out on first. I believe it was Infamous was second, and OTM is third, and I believe OTM B as fourth. So it was a very good tournament for us as our first time round. Coming all the way from Detroit to play CSL was definitely a lot of fun, even if it was at our home field in Shotzone, Indiana. That format had traveled a long way to be there. And we had always talked about doing it, but we never had the chance because it's ran out on the coast, and it's far for us. So it was out of reach. But big shout out to Keegan from CSL. I think he ran a great event. I think it's Ryan is his head ref, also ran a great event. It was awesome for what it was, and for us to step out of our comfort zone. None of this, and I want to make this very clear at the end of this video, that none of this is me shitting on the CSL format. None of this is me trying to tell Keegan how to do his job, because ultimately he has full control over his own format. But this is what I see from being a longtime supporter of SXL and player of SXL, and what worked for us building the league that we're now playing in, and what I compare and contrast as a player and a person did not like and liked from CSL to SXL. So again, big shout out to Keegan. Go follow CSL Airsoft if you want to get involved in the events. I'm going to put a link in the description to the events compete page. I believe they're doing the Anders Major at some point soon, and that one's down in Florida. And then the championship is at EA. I believe OTM is going to be making their way out there, at least trying to, depending on the prices, because Rhode Island expensive for some reason. But thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Carnage Customs, and I hope you guys have a great day.